Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I'm a minute late here this evening. Do appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me. Kind of wanted to go ahead and go over some additional things that we kind of piggyback on what I talked about yesterday. And we talked about towing and towing capacity. And along with that, I wanted to kind of add a little bit to it to go over some things I think that people don't understand. And that is when we're talking about model versus length of vehicles. Now, all too often, people think that, if I have a model number, and I'm just going to put out a couple models here. So I have a couple in there, 21 model numbers. So there's a 2106 FBS. That's a micro mini. Also have a 2108 FBS. And again, it's a micro mini. And with an Avenger, I have a 21 RBS. Now, what a lot of people do, and I see this happen a lot in the RV industry, where the salesperson, or maybe even a customer, and I think the customers do this because the salespeople lead them on to this, they'll walk up and say, hey, let me show you a 21 footer. Now, in retrospect, in some cases, that might actually be true or be pretty darn close. But most of the time, it's not wrong. It's not correct. You see, their model, what they're telling you is the first two digits of a model number are the actual length. In reality, though, let me just break this down for you. And there's other model numbers, I'm just kind of giving you a general idea. The 2106 FBS, the actual length is 21 foot, 11 inches. That's pretty darn close to being 21 foot, though. Next, what we have is a 2108 FBS, again, a micro mini, but this one is 22 foot, 5 inches. Now, I know a lot of times people are telling you the model number is the box size. It is not always the case, because this 21 RBS, it's an Avenger, okay? You are actually 27 foot, 7 inches. So they are all over the place. I remember the first time when Fleetwood, came in with a 27 bunkhouse travel trailer. The thing was almost 34 foot in length. And, you ask them, why are you guys doing that? And these companies do this, play this game with this, the two digits on the front to kind of get you in a mindset thinking that it's shorter. Now, sometimes it is, the box size is the model number in some cases, but not all the time. So you've got to be careful. If the two digits on a model number equated to the size of the size of the box, we'd be in trouble, because let me just go over something with you. So that was just regular travel trailers. So we have a tab 320. We have a tab 400. So the first two digits on that, if we're going by that frame of mind, first two digits 32. So that's telling you that this tab is, the box size is 32. Overall length is going to be like 35 feet. When in reality, this thing is 15 foot, 2 inches. Same thing with the tab 400. This thing's going to be 18 foot, 2 inches. So you cannot go by the first two digits for a model number. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Next time, if you're out looking at campers and a salesperson walks you up and they tell you that it's a 24 footer when it's just a 24 model number, ask them, are you talking about the overall length? Or, is that what you're calling this? Because that is not the way it works. So that is model number versus length. So hopefully that gives you a little bit better understanding as far as what model number does. So next thing is, let's talk about tongue weights. Last night, had a discussion pertaining to your tow capacities, and we were talking about how to figure that out. Hopefully you'll watch it. I'll link that down below as well. But let me talk about tongue weights, because tongue weight's important. And by the way, one thing I failed to mention last night, I did mention that in most cases that your hitch receiver on the back of your vehicle is rated for 10% tongue weight of what the rating is. So if you had a rating of 3,500, that meant that your max tongue weight would be 350 pounds. However, I forgot to mention with the Subarus have a rating of 2,700 or 2,900 pounds with some of their Outbacks and so forth. However, in the owner's manual, it does stipulate that that's your gross towing capacity, but 200-pound tongue weight. So always refer back to your owner's manuals for the specifics for your particular vehicle. Now, I'm just going to kind of pull up a brochure here just to kind of give you an idea. So when you're looking at a brochure, or if you're looking online, and I'm just going to use, for instance, the 2106 FBS. It's showing on here that it has a tongue weight of 360 pounds. Now, one thing you need to understand is then you need to add for the LP that's going to be put on the front. So if you have two 20-pound bottles or two 30-pound bottles, you need to make sure you add the appropriate weight. So let's just say it's going to have two 20-pound tanks as well as a battery. So we have, according to the brochure, or if you're online, it has a 360-pound. And by the way, this will be a dry weight. And a lot of times, the thing they're missing also is they're not calculating for options that may be put on the trailer. And that is why what we do at Beckley's Camping Center is we actually weigh the tongues. We actually have a little scale, and we'll actually weigh the tongues. There was an instance a couple of years ago where we had two different manufacturers saying that their tongue weights were somewhere about 330 to 335 pounds. Turned out they were more like 440 to 460 pounds. So be very careful with that. We actually do weigh them to make sure that they're within the limits of your vehicle. But let's just say that we have a dry weight, or the tongue weight according to the brochure or online is at 360 pounds. Then we're going to add 40 pounds for that's going to be for your LP. This is LP. You have two 20-pound bottles. So now you're up to 400 pounds. However, now you're going to go ahead and put a deep cycle battery on it. Typically, your deep cycle battery, 45 pounds. So that means that the dry weight, before we put any cargo, any water in the system, whatever, you're 445 pounds. That is why you need to make sure that before you tow this, make sure that your vehicle will be able to handle it. Now, if you're dealing with me at Beckley's Camping Center, we're going to do that for you. Make sure that we do not put you in harm's way, put you and your family in a safety situation. Now, when you're looking at when you're looking at a travel trailer and you fall in love with one, and maybe you're a little bit close, let's say you have a 500-pound tongue weight, look and check and see where the freshwater tank is in the event that you're going to be doing any dry camping. Because that particular one there, that way there is, it will, dry weight, I'm sorry, I was just reading somebody's comment there. Randy was saying his 20-pound tanks weigh 18 pounds empty and 38 full. And basically what's happening is, yes, you're adding, when we're weighing the tongue, or when they're talking about the empty weight on the tongue weight, they're talking about with two LP tanks there that are empty. So when typically when we're weighing the tongues at Beckley's prior to us prepping them, if I go out there and weigh it, I'm going to add 20 pounds per bottle. So that would actually equate for that, Randy. I do appreciate you pointing that out there. So I'm telling you, it's 20 pounds additional to the tanks that are sitting on the front there. But so anyway, so let's say you had a 500-pound tow rating or a tongue weight rating, and you're at 445. You check to see where the fresh water tank is in the event you're going to boondock. Because if it's in the front and you're carrying water, it's 8.33 pounds per gallon. So if it has a 40-pound tank, you can see you're adding a lot of weight, and your vehicle may not be able to sustain that. Now, the good news is, chances are, if you have a 500-pound tongue weight, typically you're going to have probably a truck or a vehicle that you're allowed to use weight distribution with. Be sure you check your owner's manuals with that, because there are vehicles out there that tell you you're not allowed to use weight distribution hitches or hitch accessories with a trailer. So check that. I know that the Volkswagen, I believe it's the Atlas, does not allow you to use weight distribution. So you've got to be careful when you're talking about that. But now, a lot of times, though, when you have these trucks that have let's say a tow rating of 5,000 pounds, 500-pound tongue weight, that's just dead weight. However, a lot of times the hitch receivers are rated for a higher number for if you're using weight distribution. Well, good evening, Lindsay, and glad to see that you're here from Montreal. Hoping everything is going well up in your neck of the woods there. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at hitches, your hitch receivers. And the good news is, typically, if you have a vehicle that allows you to swap out hitches, your hitch receivers, and the manufacturer specifications allow you to do that, what you're able to do is, what you'll see a lot of times is, you might have a 500-pound dead weight. However, this might also then equate into either 800 pounds or higher if you had what they call a weight distribution hitch, meaning like Reese, equalizers, things of that nature. So hopefully that kind of clarifies some things for you. Does anybody have any questions? I see we have about 6 people on here this evening, and 2 of you have announced. So any other questions that I can answer for you on this pertaining to either we're talking model number versus length, or when we're talking about tongue weights and how to figure and calculate those? Anybody have any questions? I'm sitting here enjoying adult beverage, and I have the Campaholics little koozie here. By the way, and feel free, please do, if any of you have an RV channel that you're trying to grow, feel free to go ahead and give me a shout out here. I'll make sure that I go ahead and return the favor, come over and subscribe to your channel and so forth. If you're new to my channel, please do consider subscribing as well. Good evening, Donna from Arizona. How you doing, young lady? Hope all's well with you. As you can see, I have an audience with me this evening. This is PJ, by the way. He has his own little Facebook page. Where in the world is PJ? That's something I give out to every one of my customers, kind of give them something to enjoy their travels and so forth. Glad to hear that, Donna. Everything's well here as well. I was running a little behind this evening, but was able to still get things in. Need to plan for tomorrow night. I want to come up with a better topic. And, of course, that's Thursday. And then Friday, big day there Friday, we're going to also be having Travels with Delaney at 8 p.m. on Friday. They do family game night, so be sure to tune into them. I have their link down below this video. Check them out. Great people. And but I hope that the information I gave you this evening helped you out a little bit. Connie, I'm glad you finally made it here. No questions, okay? Well, that's good. I'm glad you made it before I signed off here this evening. I know the last couple of times you seem to chime in just as I sign off or whatever. But I appreciate you all joining me here this evening. If there's a particular topic that you would like me to cover, by all means, feel free to, shoot me a comment down below if you're watching on replay or whatever, and I'll be more than happy to try and cover that. With so much misinformation out there, I'm just trying to get the proper information out to you because I'd like everybody to be safe, and I want everybody to go out and enjoy themselves. So, and again, as I mentioned before, I'm looking forward to a great season. I'm going to be actually out there camping every month, and I'll be announcing as I schedule things where I'm going to be. So that way there, if you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome to join us. We have a little get together impromptu get-togethers. I'll be doing RV use and maintenance seminars at these campgrounds. So it will be a lot of good information if you're able to make it. I'm hoping, depending on how the Wi-Fi and so far are, I may be looking at the possibility of doing a live event, maybe on Facebook or maybe even on YouTube. So we'll play that by ear as things go on. But I hope you learned something here tonight. Give me a thumbs up if you're liking what I'm going over here this evening, if you learned something, if it was helpful. And always try to just give you that little extra information. So thanks again. And does anybody have any last comments or anything you'd like to chime in on before I sign off? You know, the Anderson hitches, it's one thing, and I am not that well educated on the Anderson hitch, and I appreciate you chiming in and asking me about that. We do not recommend the Anderson hitches at this point. Now, of course, that could change in time. But typically what we're doing, and the ones that we recommend from weight distribution, is we recommend the Blue Ox, and that is for travel trailers at 24 foot and under. And then we're using the Reese weight distribution with dual cam sway control for units that are 25 foot and up. Just to kind of give you an idea of why we do that. We actually had our two owners, our PDI manager as well as our service manager, actually test the equalizer hitch, the Blue Ox, and the Reese. And they tested it with a Ram 1500 towing an Imagine 2800 BH. So it was a 32-foot travel trailer, and they hooked them up all three. And each of them rated them, and they scored them accordingly. And the way they came down was they rated the Reese #1, Blue Ox #2, and Equalizer was third. They have not tested the Anderson, but for whatever reason, they have not given thumbs up for it. I mean, I'll tell you, if you really want to go out there and spend the money, the Pro Pride, which is like a Hensley hitch, that is the top of the line. But most people aren't willing to spend the $2,000 to $3,000 to put those on. I'll tell you what, they tow like a charm, but most people aren't willing to go to that extreme. And it's really not something that's necessary if you have a shorter travel trail. I can understand if you're towing a 32-foot or longer travel trail and you have the truck to tow it, that Hensley or Pro Pride, those hitches are phenomenal. You will have no sway whatsoever with that hitch receiver itself. But yes, with a TAP 400, what are you? Yeah, it's probably overkill. It depends. What is your tow vehicle, Randy? Because that's another key as well. I mean, I don't know that. I know there's very few people that are putting weight distribution with the TAP 400s. Although with the weight that they have on them, that does help out. I have seen some equalizer hitches on them, and I think that I think for what they are, they work well. The problem with the equalizer hitch that I have seen on the front of a TAP 400 is they end up having to put the bracket too close to the ball, which is not what equalizer recommends. So that could be the issue there. I had a customer that was actually coming from Ohio. He was trading in a 32-foot travel trailer. He was buying a 36-foot travel trailer, towing with a Ram 1500. So truck really, don't recommend something that long with a 1500, but he wanted to tow it. But he had the Reese round bar system on his 32-foot trailer, and he had a friction hinge or friction sway for that. Wrong sway control for that length trailer. He did switch over. He did do what I recommended, the Reese with the dual cam. And when he got home, he said he was amazed at the difference in towing it. He said the 36-foot trailer actually towed better than the round bars that he had. The round bars were Reese as well. Randy, with a Chevy 1500, I would say you don't need any weight distribution. I think you're going to be perfectly fine without any. I think the most you might want to consider doing, if you wanted to do would put a friction sway control on there. However, I teach people when I do test tows how you can use your brake controller to to control sway as well. So hopefully that helped out here this evening. I do appreciate the questions. Appreciate you all joining, and do stay tuned. I will be coming back. Again, like I said, give me a thumbs up if you're liking what I'm going over here. I'm giving you some good information. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and also check out some of these other people's channels as well. And maybe one day we'll cross paths. Thank you, and you all have a great evening. Be safe out there.